Hello friends, welcome to Mom, the Hindu news analysis program presented by DEEKSHA SPACE. Today in this session we are going to look after December 22nd, 2020, the Hindu newspaper. Today's first article, House panel moots law to keep a check on private hospitals. This article we are discussing in the context of the recommendations which are given by Parliamentary Standing Committee on Home Affairs. As we all know, from March to April or even today, we are going through a COVID-19 pandemic which has shaken the economy, the health, the social life of all the people in the country. This committee, that is on Standing Committee on Home Affairs, has looked after all these dimensions with respect to hospital, with respect to economy, and with respect to National Disaster Management Authority work. So these three dimensions where we have failed in some reasons or in some ways, those are being recommended to be corrected here. First, the committee has recommended that there is a need of Public Health Act which is at a national level and which is suitable legal provisions to support the government in keeping checks and controls over private hospital. As we all know and read in news that during COVID-19 pandemic, few of the government hospitals which reserved beds for COVID-19 patients were charged exorbitantly. So that made the life of the people or that made the life of the patients actually worse. So the committee has recommended that a public health act is the need of the hour at a national level in order to give legal provisions for the government to take an action against private hospitals. And there were cases with respect to charging the medicines also at too high prices, which made the life of the people again worse. Black marketing of medicines and product standardization is the need of the hour, what committee has come up with the recommendation in this article. Second, they are speaking about National Disaster Management Authority. If you all remember, National Disaster Management Authority is headed by Prime Minister of India and it is a disaster management apex body in India as of now. So PM is head of NDMA, please remember this. And the setting of NDMA or creation is to enable the environment and an institutional mechanism at state district level which is mandated by National Disaster Management Authority 2005. So the guidelines or the policies or the plans for disaster management are mandated to be laid down by NDMA. So the development of an ethos of prevention, mitigation, preparedness and response is what is taken care by NDMA. The National Disaster Management Authority logo reflects the aspirations of national vision of empowering all stakeholders to improve the effectiveness of disaster management. There are 5 divisions in National Disaster Management Authority: policy and plan. Second is mitigation. Third is operations and communication. Fourth, information technology. Fifth is administration and finance. So these are 5 divisions of National Disaster Management Authority and which has done an exceptional work during a COVID-19 pandemic which was out of nowhere. However, here the committee has recommended to set up a separate wing out of NDMA that will specialize in handling the COVID-19 like pandemics in future if there are any. And in the economic front, hospital front, we have seen Public Health Act at national level, National Disaster Management Authority, a separate wing is the necessity. And at economic front, there were several schemes which were implemented by government to look after or to help the people with respect to the pandemic. But few of the schemes could not be implemented at the ground level exactly or cannot be reached at the ground level what was the need of the hour. So at that point of time, farmers, non-corporate, non-farming, small or micro enterprises, they actually suffered a lot, and even today they are finding it difficult to get loans, which needs to be addressed is what committee has come up with the recommendation. And due to this COVID-19 pandemic, we are seeing there is a consumption decline in the economy, and this loss, job loss and fall in the income due to lockdown has made life of the people miserable, and the consumption led growth which was expected is actually going down. As we all know, at this point of time, due to GDP contraction in quarter 1, we have been discussing, it is around 23.9% of 2020-2021, which has a negative impact over India's economic growth. So these are the 3 dimensions which the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Home Affairs has come up with the recommendations. So these are very important with respect to the next India after pandemic which needs to be taken care. Next article, suspension of insolvency and bankruptcy code extended till March 21st. So this article we are discussing in the context of the insolvency and bankruptcy code 2016. If you remember, this is IBC, insolvency and bankruptcy code 2016, was brought out to solve the situation of distressed credit market, or to bring out improving business environment in India. So improving business environment and improving the credit market in India was the major reason why IBC was bought out in May 2016, as we all know. So this is a situation when an individual fails to, or a company fails to pay its debt, while its bankruptcy is a legal procedure for liquidating. However, this situation comes up when he is not, or when he cannot fully pay its debts out of its current assets. Previously, there were other multiple options or laws with respect to insolvency and bankruptcy. They were Company Law Board, Debt Recovery Tribunal, SURFACE Act 2002, Sikh International Companies Act 1985, and Companies Act 1956. However, all these laws which were previously to this insolvency and bankruptcy code did not have any time frame, and the creditor did not have an option to go with the insolvency process. It was the debtor end. So that is where insolvency and bankruptcy code 2006 stands out. It gives up a clear time frame, and it makes easier for the creditor and the debtor on the either end to go for the liquidation or insolvency process. So the entire analysis, or with respect to the brief understanding, I have given an understanding what is the importance of insolvency and bankruptcy code 2016. However, in comment section there is a special video which covers all the aspects of insolvency and bankruptcy code 2016, how it is helpful in India to get out of, or to improve business environment and stabilize the credit market in Indian context. So here what we have to understand is this insolvency and bankruptcy code, after March 25th, when lockdown was put out, many of the businesses or many of the industries could not perform well, and there have been a stressed corporate balance sheets. So in order to give them a relaxation, the ministry has come out with decision where the relaxation was till December 25th, is now extended till March 2021, is what is need to be understood here. So the major understanding is what is this insolvency bankruptcy code 2016, and in this present context, or in the present situation, this decision of extending the deadline is actually going to benefit the business entrepreneurs who are actually at stressed balance sheets, and they can make a move or improve their performances with time. Next article we are discussing in the context of a new irrigation model to help deserts. So a new irrigation model was developed by Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi Rural Technology Action Group, which is known as subsurface porous vessels. So this is a minor irrigation model where after COVID-19 pandemic, many of the people who are in villages could not earn their livelihood, and to tackle the problem of non-availability of food material, malnutrition among children, and larger inability to earn livelihood in the cities were the concerns which made this action group to come up with this model. And this model has been tested in a village and found successfully working out. Here a pot is designed with locally available materials, clay and a mixed proportion of sand, that is desert sand, and made into a frustum shape. The frustum shape of vessel which will be baked at 750 to 800 degrees Celsius with addition of carbon layer in structure, and they are making few of the holes which are required for this. So if a pot which is around 8 to 9 liters of water holding capacity will be able to provide water or sufficient nutrients to the land, providing 1.25 meters of radius. So from this pot, if you take out, so around 1.25 meters of the land which can be around this pot will be feasible enough, or will be eligible enough to cultivate whatever is required. So this has not only given higher yield as a result, but this has made a process or progress with respect to improvement of nutrients that are available in the soil. So soil nutrients is also what is being found in this technology. So this method is going to be very useful for the areas where water is really scarce and the rural population are struggling for the fight of proper food and micronutrients which are required. So this technology can be a better example of change with respect to rural life. Next article, postal ballot are to help those abroad. This article we are discussing in the context of Election Commission of India giving its reply or response to the CPI-M General Secretary Sitaram Yechuri's letter to Election Commission of India with respect to postal ballot system to be extended to NRIs also. As we all know, in 2011, a special provision was made with respect to the overseas electors. The Representation of People's Act 1951 was amended to include them under the registration or to include them under the registration of voters. However, NRIs have a provision that they can respectively vote in their polling stations, that too in person. So now, after consultation with various stakeholders, political parties, Election Commission of India has come up with two options. One is to give them a postal ballot option and voting by proxy. So these two options can be extended to NRIs so that after 2011 amendment also they are not able to exercise their franchise is what is point of concern here. At present in India, this one-way electronically transmission of ballots is under electronic transmitted postal ballot system. Under this, if you see, a postal ballot is sent to the officer who is in service under Government of India, outside India or in armed forces, which is completely stabilized now. And this was made possible by getting amendments or changing rules in October 2016, and changes were made in Conduct of Election Rules 1961. So conduction of 19 rules in 1961 made possible for electronically transmitted postal ballot system for service voters. So this same provision now Election Commission of India is trying to extend to non-resident Indians in order to make sure they also get the right to exercise their franchise even if they are outside resident in India. So the recommendation are also brought in by a committee in 2015 which was formed by Election Commission of India. The committee formed in 2015 was a 12-member committee, expert committee by Election Commission of India, which was led by Vinod. He was a deputy election commissioner for exploring feasibility of alternate options for voting by overseas electors. So this was committee which was led by Vinod Zuchti in 2015 and it was a 12-member committee. Next article is with respect to Nepal in turmoil. In this article, we are going to discuss the context in which Nepali Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli recommended a dissolution of parliament. As you all know, Nepal is first a youngest democracy. In 2017, the government which was formed was a transition from monarch to republic. Here, we are going to look after how this young democracy has went into a constitutional crisis and political turmoil as of now. As we all know, Mr. Oli, who was the Prime Minister of Nepali Communist Party from Nepali Communist Party with 2/3 majority in parliament, took this initiative or took this step with an increasing pressure from his own party to withdraw an ordinance. So this ordinance, which was giving a power to Prime Minister making crucial appointments, he will be the sole responsible. There, the opposition and within his party, the people started opposing, saying that it will remove the checks and balances, which will help in making a proper system and which will empower the Prime Minister in making crucial appointments. So, in order to remove or take back this ordinance, KP Sharma Oli actually he agreed. But on Sunday, he took this drastic step of dissolving this parliament. Election which were held in or which are supposed to be held in April-May 2021 is a year ahead. And constitutional experts have said that Nepali constitution which was formed in 2015, it allows for dissolution of house only if there is hung assembly. However, at this point of time, since president has already given permission or his recommendation, now it is in the court to decide what will be the future. If you all remember, in 2017, when this NCP, Nationalist Communist Party or National Communist Party, came into power, it was an alliance that was between two parties. One was CPN UML and another was Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist Center. So Communist Party of Nepal was Maoist Center. So the coalition or merger of these two parties was an historic, and it's led to country's largest communist force that was called as NCP. However, this ordinance, which led to crisis, and KP Sharma Oli's more power hunger, led to the differences among the party, and these differences are today seen as dissolution of parliament. So this has pushed Nepal into political instability and multiple challenges where presently the country is facing, like economic slowdown, then COVID-19 pandemic. All these have made KP Sharma Oli, who could have been a statesman or a good leader, to be in history, but he lost an opportunity by taking this step, is what is need to be understood here. So what are the reasons and what led to the fall of government in Nepal is a point of concern which needs to be understood. Next article, key steps to get this spectrum auction right. If you all remember, Union Cabinet has cleared much awaited auction of radio spectrum in various bands for commercial mobile services on December 16th. So this will be a simultaneous multiple round ascending auction. So this will be seventh of its time and held after 4 years. If you remember, previous auction was held in 2016. So this article is very interesting to understand how the auction and what happened in 2016 and what we are expecting in March 2021. That is going to be 4 years difference and what it will be coming up. So if you all remember, based on the recommendations of TRIA, the government has planned to auction spectrum of sub-gigahertz band 700, 800 and 900 megahertz and mid-band frequencies of band 1800, 2100, 2300 and 2500 megahertz. So these numbers are not much important. So the government has decided with respect to sub-gigahertz bands and mid-gigahertz bands that are going to be in auction. However, if you look at the reserve price of this year, is going to be somewhere around $50 billion, what government is expecting this year. So the potential from auction, what government is expecting is around $50 billion. But if you look at 2016, the reserve potential was around $90 billion at that point of time. But government was able to acquire only 1/10 of the money what it has thought of potential, because 700 megahertz spectrum was not sold at all. So 2016 auction was completely a failure, can be seen from the point of view of auctioneers. So there are number of factors why 2016 was failure and what needs to be done if we have to make 2021 March 2021 auction as successful. Then we have to understand the reasons for failure in 2016 so that the same mistakes will not be repeated and the auction which is going to have and having a reserve potential of $50 billion will be added to the accounts of government is what we are going to look after here. So the first one here is that the reserve price. So the price of a spectrum, the more it is, the lesser it will fetch in the auction. The research has shown that the spectrum as the database, the reserve price significantly have positive correlation with the winning bid. So higher the reserve price inhibits bidder from bidding. So the need is to have a reserve price which is lower. So first one is that one which need to be remembered. Second, if you see the billing of the telecos, that is OTT platforms, over the top platforms, as we have seen, they are trying to provide voice over internet protocol services. So the thing which has to be kept in mind is, as they are bought into regulation now by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the government has to take down few regulations how they are regulated. So factors of voice over internet protocol services or subscribers which this OTT platforms are trying to bring up will actually help in having positive effect on winning bid prices. So the regulations are taken care now, but the need is to have how they are going to be done. So and third one is, if you have seen the allocation of unlicensed spectrum. So the more you give for Wi-Fi services, the loading will be reduced on mobile data. This will act as a carrier network for demand in mobile network capacity will increase. If you all remember in US and all, there are V band spectrum, that is 60 gigahertz V band spectrum called pencil beam band. This is referred as wireless fiber. This helps to provide huge capacities in a limited area and ideally to be used for Wi-Fi and fixed wireless services. In the same way, in India, we have 2.4 to by 5 gigahertz unlicensed band, but we require additional unlicensed spectrum allocation in order to provide gigabits of speed. So the more unlicensed spectrum allocation, the lower will be the demand of licensed spectrum. So that is where the need is to releasing more unlicensed spectrum for proliferating Wi-Fi as suitable complement to carrier networks. This will augment deployment of public Wi-Fi project also, which Union Cabinet like PM Vani we have discussed in previous Hindu articles, that will also be done here. And spectrum visibility is the third factor. So first factor, please remember, reserve price. Second factor is voice over internet protocol subscribers. If that is provided, how they are regulated, then they will also be added into the auction. Third is unlicensed spectrum allocation. Fourth is spectrum visibility. Spectrum visibility is about, like, suppose now since the 5G auction, which is namely 3.4 to 3.6 gigahertz, which is going to be held in 2021, the amount of spectrum that will be made available is not clear, because 26 gigahertz, which is used presently by Department of Space and has announced that it will release for mobile services, is not yet out. So the people will be in the confusion ki whether to buy the spectrum now or this spectrum which is going to be available in future period of time, whether that we have to take it. Other way around, there are some of the spectrums which needs to be go for renewal, and the reserve price of different bands of forthcoming auctions as recommended by TRIA are having an average price of megahertz per population is around $3 for sub gigahertz band and $1.70 for mid gigahertz bands. So these are comparable to only those who are some winning bid prices in other countries. If you look at the price bracket, whatever this has submitted by TRIA, they are actually in a good line, but the visibility or the clarity with respect to auctions of band which will be available in future period of time, or what are the bands which are available now, this has to be increased. Then fifth, as we have always discussed, reserve price has to be reduced, because in 2016 700 megahertz band, which was called as golden band also, that could not go out or that could not be sold only because of higher reserve price. That is where these four factors, one is reserve price, second is OTT platforms, third is allocation of unreserved unlicensed spectrum, fourth is spectrum visibility, which needs to be increased as of now, is what is being discussed here. Next article, lessons for Monash. So this article we are discussing in the context of national education policy, which has come out with a provision of allowing universities in top 100 category of the world university ranking to come and establish or operate in India. So this provision has being discussed or analyzed ki how it is going to be helpful, and we are taking an example of Monash University, that is in Australia, which has established this its campus in other country called South Africa, and how it has performed, what are the challenges when this kind of universities coming down will be for a country when it is being done. Yes, it is being found that there is adequate potential role which this international branch campuses can do. However, there are few gaps which needs to be considered. In this article, we are going to look after this one with an example also. Here, according to cross-border education research team, it says that any higher education institute which is from a foreign country providing for education in another country, that will be operated by foreign education provider, that will provide an entire academic program that is related to that country, and it will award a degree which will be by a foreign educational provider. However, at this point of time, we have to understand there are three models which are being discussed. One is self-funded, that is the university will take care. Nobody from the host country will support in any of the way. There are other models like fully funded or partially funded universities, where fully funded are by government or by private players. Partially, again, there is collaboration with private organizations or government. In around around the world, there are around 300 international branch campuses functioning around 80 countries. So if you look at this is around huge number which are being working as international branch campuses. Around 80 countries have this. Most of the universities are from US and UK, Australia, France and Russia. These are working in China, Malaysia, Qatar and Singapore if you have data with you. So, Indian private institutions are also operating as international branch campuses in countries such as Australia, Mauritius, Uzbekistan, Singapore, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. These countries or international branch campuses which are operating at abroad are having some of the mitigation potential risks, is what is being discussed here. Here, the example of one organization called Monash University branch campus, that is in South Africa, and it has been working from 2001 to 2019. In these 2 decades, the working of South Africa's Monash University campus has shown that it cannot be beneficial always, is what is being pointed out. So South Africa regulatory framework which permitted foreign universities to operate as private entities were legally registered as companies. So South Africa has 3 international branch campuses. Monash was the first to obtain registration in 2001, which was in Johannesburg. So many of the students are around from South Africa and from the other surrounding African countries. So most 40% are from other South African countries out of 4,000 students in 2018. So out of all this, if you see, there was around 130 million which was invested in South Africa by the campus when it was started. It was a joint operative by this Monash University and US based majority owner Laureate Education in 2013. So Monash sold 75% of this shares to Laureate. In 2018, Monash and Laureate jointly decided to transfer the ownership to Independent Institute of Education, South Africa. Then it was called as Independent Institute of Education, Monash, South Africa. So if you see, from 2001, when Monash, South Africa, or Monash University established this international branch campus in South Africa, yes, they have come up with few positive notes, but the changeover of administration from various domains like Laureate, which is a US based firm, then to an independent body of South Africa, then there is an academical change again and again. So out of all these realities, there are 4 major things which needs to be understood, or drawbacks what we have seen in this Monash South Africa campus by Monash University, that is based in Australia. So one is, foreign university may not have declare or reflect the same public nature or the same intensity what it has on the base branch. So it cannot be the same reflection, is what is being the point of concern here. Second, even though it is on the top 100 universities at the world level, but local private institutions through mergers and acquisitions reduce the quality of education. So quality of education is reduced in these campuses. Third, quality of program that is offered at home campus cannot be reflected the same way. So reflection of quality of program cannot be ensured, is what is third challenge. Fourth, domestic market demands influence courses offered or offering their dependence on contract academic staff. So staff that is required cannot be fulfilled with respect to IBC campuses. So these are the 4 challenges when National Education Policy 2020 is speaking about international business campuses. Those are 100 world ranking institutions can operate in India. So the provision what has been given with respect to national education policy, will it be really helpful? What it is thought of is what needs to be understood in this article. Humans are still core to digital. So this article we are discussing in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. We have seen individuals dependent on one or the other way for their daily needs. However, here we are speaking about transformation in governance with respect to digital reformation what we have seen. So e-government foundation and Apti Institute, they are exploring the digitally excluded communities engagement with governance and learned that even digital India, humans are significant in brokering trust between government and citizens. So this point, what is being said, that brokering, which is actually significant in order to have a trust between, because in India the change is always coming up with trust. If you look at the farmers crisis, yes, there is a change which is expected and the government is trying to bring in, but the trust factor between government and farmers could not be built up. That is where the crisis what we are seeing today is still going on. Here also, when government is trying to move on to digital India, what it is speaking, the brokering trust is actually essential and major pillar in order to develop the trust between government and citizens. If you look at, for example, Andhra Pradesh has rolled out ward secretariat program wherein 16,000 ward secretaries and volunteers are delivering government services at citizens doorstep. In Indian context, if you look at the barriers with respect to government and citizenship relationship, we see many barriers, and always in India the brokers have been the hurdle or the bridge between government and citizens. Any person for that matter, poor, woman, elderly, caste or gender minorities, they are always disadvantageous, and these brokers have made their life easier to reach to the government. And many a times it is being said that these people or the brokers, they help to see these people to the government. So that is the importance of brokers in the Indian context. And here, in order to extension of the government model, that is digital India, what we are speaking, it is being said that intermediaries are crucial for the realization of government's outputs. As you all know, we are seeing Swiggy and Uber people who are actually the people who deliver the product of Uber and Swiggy's intention or idea. In the same way, these brokers will be the people who will carry the information of the government to the people. So here the importance of brokering in Indian context is being discussed, and we have to move forward or move the change with the help of these people. So the support and process of responsible, responsive and data driven governments across domains is possible. The need of the hour with respect to brokers is to build their capacity, widespread awareness campaign and re-engineering enabled growth and usage is what is the need of the hour. So this is all about today's Hindu news analysis, friends. We'll come up with new edition tomorrow. Till then, take care of your health. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.